Okay, for this section, we're going to be talking about x and y intercepts. First question we need to ask us, what are x and y intercepts? Well, if we look at this line, in this red line in this graph, the intercept is where it crosses either the x or the y axis. So we know that this is our x-axis and this is our y-axis. So where this line crosses the y-axis is our y-intercept, and where it crosses the x-axis is our x-intercept. Now in math, they will often ask you to identify the x and y-intercept mathematically, and here's what we need to know. They're giving us information. So the y-intercept is when x equals 0, and the x-intercept is when y equals 0. So essentially we have ordered pairs here where x equals 0. This is 0 comma something. We don't know. Something positive because it's up here. And this point, we don't necessarily know the x value in this example, but we know it's a negative number. But we know the y value is 0. So when we're identifying ordered pairs of intercepts, we have to start with our knowns, which is that x equals 0 for the y-intercept and y equals 0 for the x-intercept. All right, so when we are using intercepts to graph, all right, we're going to find the x, y. This example says find the x and y intercepts for the equation 2x plus 3y equals 6, and then graph. Well, what we have to do is basically solve two problems. One where we put 0 in for x, so we substitute it in, and we solve for y. Another one where we put 0 in for y, and we solve for x. So here's kind of your drawn out example here. All right, for the x-intercept, we put 0 in for y, so you can see we put the 0 there. 3 times 0 is 0. We rewrite it, 2x equals 6. Divide both sides by 2, we get x equals 3. For the y-intercept, we put 0 in for x, and we get 3y equals 6. Do we divide by 3 and we get y equals 2. So essentially what we have here, and in this t-chart, we have an ordered pair where x equals 3 and y equals 0. And then we have where x equals 0 and y equals 3. Or sorry, y equals 2 in this example. All right, so if we're graphing giving the intercepts, now we have to plot these 2 points. So we're going to go ahead and do that on this coordinate plane. Make this a little bigger. So when x equals 3, y equals 0, so 1, 2, 3, and we don't go up or down because it's on that axis. And 0, 2. So we don't go left or right, when we go up 2, we put the dot there, and then we can draw that line through those 2 points. And that's how you graph given the x and the y intercept. So one way to do it is to set up a t-chart like this. Maybe it's easy to set up the t-chart with this information in there, but we can show our work in the next 2 examples. So if we're finding the x-intercept of this graph, what do we know? We know that the y equals 0. So essentially we're putting a 0 in for y. So we have 3x minus 4 times 0, which is just 0, equals 12. So that goes away. 3x equals 12. We're going to divide by 3. We have x equals 4. So our ordered pair that we would graph here would be 4 for the x, and of course 0 for the y, because that's what we put in. So we're going to go ahead and plot that. 4 for the x should be here, and we don't, and 0 for the y, so it's on that axis. So to find the y-intercept, we have to put 0 in for x. So we have 3 times 0, which makes it go away, minus 4y equals 12. So we do our next step. Negative 4y equals 12, divide by negative 4. And we get y equals negative 3. So our x value is 0, and our y value is negative 3. Now we can plot that as well. So 0 on the x, negative 3 for the y. We put a dot there, and then we draw our line through. So that was each step there. So here's another one where it's just kind of a blank sheet. where we have to graph finding the x and the y intercepts. So there's a way to do this, and this is how we would do it with setting up a t-chart. So I have my x. I'm going to put my formula in here, 5x plus 2y equals 10. And then we have our output, which is y. So remember, the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So when I put a 0 in for x, this is going to go away. So I'm essentially just going to have 2y equals 10, divide by 2, y equals 5. So 5 is my output. When I have to find my x-intercept, I have to put a 0 for y. So that y is going to go away. I will have 5x equals 10. So now I'm just solving for x. Divide by 5. X equals 2 for my answer. Now I have my two ordered pairs. I have 0, 5, and I have 2, 0. I'm going to graph this on a coordinate plane that I'm going to draw. So I'm going to plot these points first. I'm going to put tick marks over here. So 0 for the x is not left or right, and 5 for the y. So I'm going to go up 5. So I'm going to indicate 5 spaces up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a dot there. So for 2, 0, I have to go 2 on the x. 1, 2. I'm not going up or down. I put a dot there, and you draw a line through those two dots to graph the line. So again, graphing using x and y, or graphing the intercepts, you always use the opposite for 0. So if it's a y-intercept, you use x or 0 for x. If it's an x-intercept, you use 0 for y. Plug it into the equation and solve for the other variable.